Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We're still at war in Iran, still having a ceasefire, but computers still going on. Been a very busy week. Because you know what? People buying homes, people selling homes, they don't care about what they do not control. They just know what they need to do, what they have to do to sell their home. So let's take a look at the big three this week. Prices are up. Inventory is steady. Rates are sideways. Really not a lot of movement as we come to the end of the week. Big headline news, hey, the naval blockade is working still, but it hasn't been easy. It's not smooth sailing. Love these nautical terms. A lot of smooth sailing, or not smooth sailing, I should say. Pending home sales, we got another housing report this week. It was pretty solid, actually, despite the increase in rates. Home buyers, well, let's look at what's the makeup of home buyers? Who's buying and what is their income? We'll look at that. And then VA rates are steady. So not a lot of news this week. There's a lot of stuff coming out. And if you have not watched my podcast, man, I have some really good podcasts coming up. Not only this week, the last couple of weeks, I got some great ones coming up over the course of the next month. So like, comment, subscribe on my YouTube channel. You can see the podcast there. You can go to Spotify, Apple, and watch the podcast there, listen to the podcast there, but some really good information. Not just if you're buying a home, but if you're in a leadership position and are trying to improve your lot in life, just improve life in general, whether it's as a business person, as a family member, as a spouse, as a friend. All right, let's get into some specifics. All right, we continue the blockade, the ceasefire extension. So the ceasefire expired on Tuesday, but it was extended indefinitely. We do not have talks yet scheduled, but can expect that talks will be happening. Actually, we just had Israel and Lebanon met at the White House today, and there was some good movement there. But you know what? God, there's a lot of question on who is actually running the country. And we always had this problem with the Iranian Navy. You had the Iranian Navy, then you had the Iranian Guard, and who was actually in charge? The Iranian Guard, they were the more, shall we say, kind of off the rail of the groups, and they're actually kind of creating a little bit of hate and discontent in the Gulf right now. They have actually boarded or attacked 3 vessels, boarded 2 of them, obviously in retaliation for the U.S. Navy basically taking down an Iranian tanker. So still a lot of scrutiny, a lot of tension right in the Strait of Hormuz. It's kind of keeping it's what's causing interest rates from going down or stopping them from going down. It's really that angst right there, because again, those inflation fears, we stop the movement of oil, or the movement of oil is stopped, inflation goes up, and that's what we're seeing right now. Prospective Fed Chair Warsh was on Capitol Hill this week, was getting grilled. And he did a pretty dang good job, I thought. And we'll see. It's going to take some time before he gets accepted into the office, or he gets approved. And there is still the contention over current Fed Chair Powell's, the legal action against him right now. But really, Fed Chair Warsh portended very well in front of Congress this week. Fed cuts, though, really being pushed back, and understandably so, due to really the question mark on whether the impact of higher oil and higher fuel rates is going to cause inflation to go up. We really haven't seen that yet, but the longer this blockade goes, the longer the war in Iran goes, the bigger the impact we can expect that the oil prices will have on inflation in our country. And you know what? One of my thoughts here is, man, if you're buying now, you know what? Rates are steady. You can't worry about where the rates are at or what you cannot control. You really got to be more concerned about your payment. That's what's important. And I'll tell you what, in areas where there is a higher inventory, you are going to get better interest rates. Just had a client close today. All right, actually two 21-year-olds. They bought a $1.4 million home with rental, 3-2 rental option. They got a 5.25, they got $25,000 seller credit to pay their closing costs. They actually got their earnest money deposit back, and they bought their rate down to 5.25%. That is pretty solid, and half of their mortgage payment is already going to get paid by the people who will rent out their home. And guess what? They're both active duty 21-year-olds. We're going to talk a little bit about generational home buying here in a second, but let me tell you what, you can't worry about the rate as much as you can. You should be concerned with the payment. You need to talk to your lender. You need to look at different options on a 5/1 ARM, a 7/6 ARM. For VA especially, those rates are anywhere from 0.5 point to 3/4 point lower than the 30-year fixed rate option. So really pay attention to that. Yep, you can't control what's going on in the Gulf, but you can control your payment by working with the right team and staying within a budget. Let's take a quick look at pending home sales. This was a pleasant surprise that, despite higher interest rates over the course of the month of March, we still saw 1.5% increase month over month in pending home sales. The current sales pace though dropped from over 4 million to just under 4 million at 3.98 million. Not very good. Again, we want to be closer to 5 million. Just not a lot of movement, but still positive movement, which is better than what we expected. You can see we saw the index go from 72.6 to 73.7. So that's really good news. We're still 1% down. 1.1% down year over year, but still positive report in spite of the war in Iran. Let's talk about the makeup of our buyers. Home buyer generational breakdown. Gen Z, 18 to 26-year-olds, still, man, they're the ones that are just getting started. And we have heard before the average age or the median age of the first-time home buyer is 40 years old. That may not be 100% accurate, but I tell you what, younger people are getting squeezed. Only 11% of home buyers are in the younger millennial, 27 to 35-year-old. 15% older millennials, 36 to 45 years old. The majority of the buyers are Gen Xers, baby. That's you and me. Well, some of you and me. All right, Gen Xers, 46 to 60. Man, I'm almost in the young boomer age. What? Get out of here. Well, 27%. So Gen X and the young boomers are really, they're where most of the homes are being bought. And you gotta figure those are second homes. Those are people maybe downsizing. Certainly not growing, although I do know one of my loan officers, he's like 58 and he's got a baby on the way and he's got like an infant. Talk about crazy. Whew, man, that guy's gonna have to work till he's like 80. Anyway, the buyers, Gen X, younger boomers, they're the biggest group of buyers. Even older boomers though are getting into it. 15% of those older boomers are buying homes, and I got an aunt and an uncle. Actually, they're not quite silent generation, but they're in that older boomer stage. They just sold their house, they're renting, they're gonna look to buy here soon because you know what? They're giving their money away. They're paying somebody's mortgage. You might as well pay your own. Let's talk about their income though, these buyers. Wow. 16% of home buyers make less than $55,000. They ain't buying in Hawaii, I tell you that. All right, 13% is $55,000 is $74.999, so $75,000. 15%, 75 to just under $1 million. Most of our buyers are making between $1 and $2 million annual income for the home buyers, and 18% are $200,000 or more. Hey, a majority of your home buyers are going to be, you look at that, that's 56% of home buyers make over $100,000 a year. The median, average median income as well is like $114,000 in Hawaii. So you got to be making more money in order to buy a home. But you know what? Here's the other thing. You got to have low debt. All right, you can start that young. You may not be making a lot of money, but you mitigate that by having no debt, by having savings, by doing the things you need to do to make sure you have the money for the down payment if you're a conventional, and knowing the other loan products out there. That is also important. You don't need to do a down payment in certain areas. You could be a veteran. You could be buying USDA. You could be doing a program where you get 1% down and your lender, I know of one, who can cover the other 2% on a 3% down payment. So a lot of options. You need to know your options, control your debt, save money, and increase your income when you can. All right, let's take a look at the rates as we end the week. VA rates this week ain't nothing but a thing. We're right about where we were. I think we started at 5.89 or maybe 5.93. I cannot remember, but we're at 5.94. They went up a little bit today, but not that much. Really, as long as we kind of are in that status quo, there's nothing crazy going on in the Gulf other than what we're already seeing. As long as we're moving towards peace, then I think the interest rates will stay below 6% on VA. But if you see something pretty bad happen, a mine that blows up a tanker, an attack on one of our allies, an attack on one of our naval ships, a loss of lives, those kind of things could cause interest rates to spike and certainly cause those oil prices to spiral up and out of control. That's all I got for you guys this week. You have a great week, and don't forget, like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take a look at the podcast. Let me tell you, I'm speaking with some great leaders on island in our industry and in other industries as well. Have a great week.